Namaskar. Prayers for your and your family members' safety and health. This is the second part of the video lesson related to chapter number 2 of class 11th English. The name of the chapter, We Are Not Afraid to Die If We Can All Be Together. As you have noted in the first part of the chapter, we saw that a family decides to go on a sea voyage, a very long sea voyage, and they are going to go around the globe. They have specially built a boat or a big boat named Wave Walker, and the family starts from Europe and they go towards the southern direction, towards Africa, and to the southern tip of Africa, that is Cape of Good Hope. From there, two more crew members join. This was to help crossing the stormy ocean, that is the Southern Ocean, when they were going to turn east towards India. And as we have seen, that the turbulent ocean brings a storm in the way of this family, and they are stuck up in the mid-ocean. The turbulent waves disturb their boat and overturn it. We have read till here. Now we move further on. Unexpectedly, my head popped out of water. So the narrator is in the sea. A few meters away, Wave Walker, that is her boat, was near capsizing. Capsizing means turning upside down. Her masts almost horizontal to the level of the sea. Then a wave hurled her upright. My lifeline jerked taut. I grabbed the guard's rail and sailed through the air into the wave walker's main boom. Subsequent waves tossed me round the deck like a rag doll. So we have seen that the effect of the waves make the boat overturn and once again turn, and because of that the narrator, who has tied himself with a string or a rope with the boat, gets flung like a rag doll. My left ribs cracked, the narrator says, my mouth filled with blood and broken teeth. Somehow I found the wheel, lined up the stern for the next wave and hung on. Till here we had read. Now we move further. Water, water everywhere. I could feel that the ship had water below, but I dared not abandon the wheel to investigate. So there was water everywhere in the ship also. But the narrator says that he did not go to find out. He says, I dare not abandon the wheel. That is, right now he is at the steering wheel. He is navigating the boat, trying to control it. Suddenly, the front hatch was thrown open and Mary appeared. And Mary said, We are sinking! She screamed. The decks are smashed. We are full of water. So the narrator says, Take the wheel, I shouted as I scrambled for the hatch. Larry and Herb were pumping like madmen. So there was water and the two people were trying to put the water out of the boat using the pump. Broken timbers hung at crazy angles. Timber is wood. The whole starboard side bungled inside. Clothes, crockery, charts, tins, and toys sloshed about in deep water. So all the things that were there in the ship, in the boat, uh, was in the water now. I half swam, half crawled into the children's cabin. There were children also, no? And then I asked, "Are you all right?" And the answer was, the children said, "Yes." They answered from an upper bunk. "But my head hurts a bit," said Sue, pointing to a big bump above her eyes. So this girl had uh, got a wound in the forehead above the eyes. I had no time to worry about bumped heads, the narrator says, because he had to manage the boat. After finding a hammer, screws, and canvas, I struggled back on deck. With the starboard side bashed open, we were taking water with each wave that broke over us. So, because there was a hole there on one side, um, the starboard side, the water was coming in. If I could not make some repairs, we would surely sink. So, the narrator is in an urgent need to repair the hole so that the water can be blocked from coming inside the boat. Somehow I managed to stretch canvas and secure waterproof hatch covers across the gaping holes. The narrator tries the canvas to block the water from entering. Some water continued to stream below, but most of it was now being deflected over the side. So the author was in a way successful to block the way for the water to come in. More problems arose when our hand pump started to block up with the debris floating around the cabin and the electric pump short circuited. So one more problem that emerged after blocking the waterway, after blocking the water from entering in the boat, there was yet another problem, and the problem was that the water pump which was pumping the water out of the boat, there was a short circuit in it and it stopped working. The water level rose threateningly. The water level rose in the boat because the pump had stopped working. Back on deck, I found that our two spare hand pumps had been wrenched overboard, along with the forestaysail, the jib, the dinghies, and the main anchor. So there was one more spare pump there. Now it had to be brought in. Then I remembered that we had another electric pump under the chart room floor. So I connected it to an outpipe and was thankful to find that it worked. So he tried yet another pump which was located somewhere else in the same boat, and somehow he managed to use that pump. The night dragged on with an endless, bitterly cold routine of pumping, steering, and working the radio. So it was night time and the time passed. They could not definitely sleep because it was a stormy weather and they had met with an accident. So the entire effort was to pump the water out of the boat, manage the direction, steering, and also sending the messages, SOS messages, using the radio. We were getting no replies to our mayday calls. So mayday calls are the calls for help, that is SOS messages, using a radio, which was not surprising in this remote corner of the world. So anyhow, they were trying out to send the message, SOS message, but at this location the author was aware that no help would be readily available because it is a remote corner of the world. Sue's head had swollen alarmingly. She had two enormous black eyes and now she showed us a deep cut on her arm. When I asked why she hadn't made more of her injuries before this, she replied, "I didn't want to worry you when you were trying to save us all." So Sue had other injuries also, but she did not share. She did not tell her father. Uh, Otherwise, they would worry more. And also, she was a kind of a responsible child. She says that I didn't want to worry you when you were trying to save us all. Okay, so this shows that this girl is very sensitive and a very responsible girl. She did not want to disturb in the effort of saving the entire crew. By morning on January 3, the pumps had the water level sufficiently under control for us to take 2 hours rest in rotation. So in this situation, there was no time to rest, but gradually on 3rd of January, the water level went down, and therefore they could take rest in turns, and there was definitely a need to take rest for everyone, but they had to take rest taking turns, and that to just 2 hours rest. But we still had a tremendous leak somewhere below the waterline, and on checking, I found that neatly all the boats' main rib frames were smashed down to the keel. In fact, there was nothing holding up a whole section of the starboard hull except a few cupboard partitions. So the condition was not yet safe, but still they were trying. We had survived for 15 hours since the wave hit, but Wave Walker would not hold together long enough for us to reach Australia. So the boat was heavily damaged, and whatever repairs they had done, they were sure that this could not long last, and they will have to take refuge somewhere. They cannot definitely go in such a condition with such a boat to Australia. So Australia was still far, far away. And so the narrator says that I checked our charts and calculated that there were two small islands a few hundred kilometers to the east of where they were. One of them, that is Amsterdam, was a French scientific base. Our only hope was to reach these pinpricks in the vast ocean. So why the pinpricks? Because they were very small in terms of area. They were like, pinpricks in the vast ocean. But unless the wind and seas abated, so we could hoist sails, our chances would be slim indeed. The great wave had put our auxiliary engine out of action. So they were trying to reach the nearby island, and one of the engines also could not work now. So there were problems one after the other. On January 4th, after 36 hours of continuous pumping the water out, we reached the last few centimeters of water. Now we had only to keep pace with the water still coming in. So water cannot be completely blocked. Still the water was coming in, but the water, the throwing out of water was more, and therefore on 4th of January, after 36 hours of continuous pumping the water out, there was few centimeters of water still left. Now we had only to keep pace with the water still coming in. That means they had to throw out the water in the speedier than the speed at which it was coming in. We could not set any sail on the main mast. The sail is at cloth, which helps in trapping the wind energy. So we could not set any sail on the main mast. Pressure on the rigging would simply pull the damaged section of the hull apart. So they could not put the sail, because if they put the sail, then it would damage the hull. So we hoisted the storm jib, that is yet another arrangement, and headed for where I thought the two islands were. The author tried to navigate towards the island, towards one of the two islands. Mary found some corned beef and cracker biscuits, and we ate our first meal in almost 2 days. See, in such a condition, they did not, they could not have food also, because their entire effort was put in managing the boat, pumping the water out, saving the boat. But our respite was short lived. That is, this satisfaction that the situation was under control, that was short lived. At 4 p.m., black clouds began building up behind us. Within the hour, the wind was back to 40 knots and the seas were getting higher. So, as the evening turned towards night, in the evening, from the time at 4 o'clock, black clouds started coming up in the sky, and that was an indication that there was one more time a turbulence. The weather continued to deteriorate throughout the night, and by dawn, that is the next morning, on January 5th, our situation was again desperate. When I went in to comfort the children, John asked, "Daddy, are we going to die?" I tried to assure him that we could make it. That means we would be able to reach the island, one of the islands. "But Daddy," he went on, "we aren't afraid of dying if we can all be together. You and Mummy, Sue and I." So here the boy shows maturity and says that no, they are not afraid of dying, or he's not afraid of dying, because the big satisfaction is that the entire family is together. And here comes the title of the chapter: We are not afraid of dying if we can all be together. With this, let us end this video session. We will read further and try to understand what happens to the voyage. Till then, I want you to read the chapter further, and in the third video session, we will continue with this chapter from here on. Till then, bye. God bless you, and may peace be with you.